Oh my goodness. It's January 26th, 2024. It's like late, late, late. And I invited to speak to Jane Gillespie and Brown. And oh my goodness, I can't sleep. This is my fifth attempt. I was able to tune in earlier. And the information again was just like trying to drink from a fire hose. And so I started out really good. I felt really light. Um, the energy felt light, but yet I felt grounded. I felt like she was really protecting me and the space. And it's a different feeling than the other people I've talked to. That's interesting. I'm sort of new to this and taking note of all that. But then at the end, it's just like she was like so excited, like, somebody's listening, I can really tell my story. Again, you have to take this with a grain of salt. I get what I get. Sometimes the energy matches or the information matches, but maybe not 100% of the information matches. So the expectation can't be it's 100%. If we get above 50%, I'm thinking that's a success, because it is a bit like tuning into a radio station far, far away, and you're cranking it, and it wanes in, and you hear it really clear, and then it wanes away, and it becomes garbled, and then you're kind of picking up pieces, um, and so it can be a little discombobulating, and so my last video I made, it was getting a little confusing. And so I just shut it down because part of what's happening is that I'm trying to drink from a fire hose and it's just so much coming at me at once. It's just like, I can't do it. And so I think it's just going to be a process of learning her and she learning me and coming together so we can communicate a little bit better if indeed this is not just my imagination, which could be. So anyway, I couldn't go to sleep. I felt like she was like right there in my space trying to go to sleep and I'll just come here and do this. So here I am. And I'll just, instead of putting it into two videos, put it back into just the one video. So I'm going to sum up what I got when I sat down with her before I started getting the increase of water in my face, energy in my face. Um, I did get again, I checked again. This video was checking to see if I was going to get the same answers as we know or the things that we think we know, um, and seeing if I got the same thing. So what I got was that her father died when she was 8 years old. So I don't know, 7, 8 years old. Eight comes in real strong. I feel like she met James Brown when she was 15 years old, and they married. I feel like she married at 17, and I feel like we're pushing 18. So I feel like she's 17 and pushing 18, and that first baby comes within the first year. Um, so that's what I got. So wherever that puts her. Um, William is there. I think is the first baby. I think the second baby is Patrick. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'll have to go back and kind of redo it. I'm just trying to get the recap. Oh, here she comes. I'm feeling it now. Um, if Patrick was baby number two or not, but Patrick, he died when he's like one or two, and I feel like the baby has a fever. So very fevered, not uncommon. Um, but if you don't know how to really treat a fever, if you don't have any medicine, um, it can get you, or whatever's causing the fever will get you. So I don't feel like Patrick lived beyond 2. That seemed to be pretty clear on that. The 16 children, I'm a little confused on. I think in the morning I'm going to go back and try to look at that again. I think there have been some multiple births. Um, I think she had like a couple of sets of twins. She's right here. I'm just going to ask her. Jane, how many sets of twins did you have? Jane Brown, Jane Gillespie Brown. How many sets of twins did you have? Okay. So she had one set of twins. Did you have one twin that lived and one twin that died? So somewhere in the mix there's a twin, and I keep getting James was a twin. I keep getting that over and over again, that he had a sister that was also a twin. Was James a twin? Was it a girl? Yeah, it was a girl. And did she live past the age of 1? Was she born dead? She would, okay, so she was a stillborn baby. And I feel like when I tell you that, I don't feel that the baby was even fully formed, although they could tell it was a girl. Um, that's how it's being presented, or that is the impressions that I'm getting. Um, her father definitely died in Virginia, but she's telling me a little bit more about her childhood. Her mother, her mother, um, even though the cabin looks a little rustic on the outside, like it just kind of looks like every normal cabin amongst many cabins, inside was different. Inside, I feel like the walls are smooth. It's like the her mother. Let me just make sure of this. Jane, did your mother have the walls inside your cabin growing up smooth? And did you live in a log cabin when you were little, when your father was still alive? But the inside, the walls were smooth and painted. And every time I say that or think that, I hear linseed oil. Now, my question is, I've not looked this up yet. Was paint in those days made with like a linseed oil? So something to check out, because she's wanting to say that. Does it have a certain smell to it that could be another flavor to the story? I don't know, but linseed oil wants to come up over and over again, and that she'd like to have the walls freshly painted. Like this was a big thing with her mother, like done like on a ritual time frame, like spring cleaning kind of a thing. Smooth walls, painted. That was what, and I did get her mother's name was Ann Deniston, but she spelled her mother's name with an E, Annne, and she spelled it Deniston, and I'm not sure how it's spelled, but that's how it's coming through. I think we might have had 2 N's in it, but she's spelling it with 1 N. Ann Deniston, is her mother. Uh, Anyway, she meets James Brown when she's 15, and I think James Brown was a little hard to get. That's kind of what I'm getting. Um, she just like sees him and thinks he is the cat's meow. And he is just oblivious. I don't know. I think she had to kind of work it to get to him, and she was just like, I almost get her like moonstruck. I hear moonstruck. She was moonstruck. She was moonstruck. And he was oblivious. But she worked her ways and got him. I just love connecting with her. Um, it's just like her son, James. It has almost that same feel, but stronger, like way stronger. Way. Yeah, I'm so lightheaded. I feel somewhat out of my body, but at the same time, I feel really rooted. It's an odd combination, much like when I was really sick and I said, this is weird. I feel hot and cold at the same time. All right. So the other thing that she told me, she brought me through in the last video, and she's showing it to me again. So this is telling me it's pretty important, a scene that I feel that needs to be told. Um, oh, she's giving it to me again. All right. So, Dad, can you soften the images for me, please? Soften the images. So it's intense, obviously. If you're talking about a massacre, it's going to be intense. And so what I was given was real intense, more intense than I wanted. But I feel her, um, I was even more detailed now. Okay, so she's kind of up and behind James. They're standing in the same area of the boat. And he's telling her, I don't like this. And I think somebody's with him and saying, look, if we don't agree to let them approach, they're going to come across, they're going to attack us. I think he knew they're going to attack. He knew it was a ruse. He said it out loud. He didn't want them to board. He was trying to figure out ways not to let them on. But I think the advice from somebody else was that if we don't let them on, it's going to ignite. So let's at least get them on and just be prepared for the fight. And so it was with great reluctance. Um, Now, before I get there, okay, before I get there, let me take you back. She's taking me back, so I've got to tell it like it's coming through. Um, Please slow it down. So, when they're in North Carolina, she likes North Carolina. She likes their house. And I feel like they have a rather nice home. It doesn't feel like it's a cabin. Um, it does not have a cabin feel. So I don't know because if they're living in a cabin, she did what her mother did, there's smooth walls that are painted. I don't know. But it doesn't feel like a cabin. It feels like a house. And she likes her home. She is not keen on moving. And James is the go-to guy. He's the surveyor. People come to him where, if I want an opportunity, where would I go? And through this conversation, just with other people, he's like thinking he wants to be out in Nashville. And I keep hearing 4 times the amount of land. 4 times. It's like whatever amount of land he owns in North Carolina, he can own 4 times as much in what became Davidson County. And it feels like it would be stupid in his mind not to take advantage of that because that is not only going to set he and her up, but their descendants. And so the amount of land is mind blowing. And he's thinking if he could get his kids on all these pieces of land, then as they as the paperwork can get filed, then it's like this big stake. It's like this big claim of land. And she doesn't want to go. She has a bad feeling. They definitely have considered going overland. Um, but that is so, it's safer. I hear it's safer, but it's treacherous. The terrain is very treacherous. You've got to disassemble all the wagons. Again, I never knew. I did look this up. They did do that. They did because I was curious because I never thought of, when they got loaded the wagons, I just assumed they were following this road, but there were no roads. And they were having to follow deer paths and people paths, and they would have to, for most of that journey, disassemble and piecemeal everything because otherwise, but yet they still needed the wagon because she was wanting to bring all their stuff. There was stuff that she was not going to part with. I get that. Um, and so they go so far and they get on the Holston. Now, um, this is where she's giving me more information about their son, James. So son James has gone on to um, finish building the cabin for his wife and child. And they send word they're coming. And it's agreed that they need as many sharpshooters as they can get. And well, I think, Susie, you call it Jamie. Jamie goes to meet them at the Holston, um, to meet him there. Long Island. He's going to meet him there. Um, keep hearing I think we know this. I think I know this, but I'm getting Long Island, and it's like hitting me all of a sudden. Anyway, they're meeting at this place, and the reason is because he is a very good sharpshooter, very good. So they already have sharpshooters, but it's like adding one more, and um, Jane has mixed feelings about this. Um, she, in some way, wants to have Jamie there, but she's at war with herself once again. There's a lot of conflict there, because she feels like she knows in her heart that they're not going to make it. She knows it. She knows it. And having Jamie there, um, or what? She's saying it's not Jamie. Stop calling him Jamie. Okay. Susie calls him Jamie. I'm going to refer to him as Little James because Little James is what she wants to call it, and I got to keep her happy. So Susie, you do what you do you. Um, but I have to call her Little because she's insisting that I call him Little James. So Little James, she wants him there, but she knows I don't think we're going to make it. I don't know how we can make it without him. Um, I don't want him in danger. Um, but yes, I feel safer when he is there because it's one more sharpshooter. And if we get into a tussle, every sharpshooter you can have, because every shot counts, is what I hear. Every shot counts. And if you miss, you know, now moving forward, that was important to get that out. Why he was there and why he met him halfway. And it was because they needed a sharpshooter to go through the river, do the river part of the journey. Now, there's somebody else on the other side. There's somebody sort of following us. They can't follow it all the way, but they're following. There's another person there. There's another person It's following along. It's almost like a spotter. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like the guy's alone, but I feel like he's not alone. So I don't know if the spotter is being spotted, you know, or what happens. There's a spotter, like kind of going ahead and kind of looking to see where they're headed, to see if he can see anything, any danger, so he can signal them so they can get ready. Um, but he's alone, but he's not alone. So does the spotter get spotted? Who watches the watchers? That sort of thing. That's interesting. Okay, so when we go to the massacre, feels like a warm day. It feels really muggy to me. Um, and when they're coming up, he's sort of pushing Jane back, and they're trying to discuss, like I said earlier, and they get on, and it goes south so fast. Like everything goes so fast, like in a blur. And there is a tussle. I feel like James pulls his sword out, but as soon as he pulls out his sword, there's something that hits him right here hard, sharp, like an axe. I mean, like a club, an axe, something. I feel like it probably breaks his arm because what happens is that it loosens his grip and the sword falls. And another Indian picks it up and in one swipe, it almost takes his head off. It doesn't take it off. It takes off. It's like it falls like Pac-Man. It falls way back and he drops in the water when I see her, I can't breathe. The trauma is so intense with her. She can't scream. She can't breathe. She's in abject terror and horror 1,000 times. And all she can think about, my children, where are my children? Like exactly where in the space are my children? And there's just chaos, and suddenly she's being ripped and pulled, and then she sees her kids. Some of them make the boat, some of them don't. I feel like there's a girl that's killed. Jane, the day that you were attacked when your husband died, did you have a girl that was also killed in that attack? Did you have more than one girl that died in that attack? You had one girl that died in that attack. So there's a girl that dies, a daughter that dies in that attack. Um, I feel like is George with you? George is with you. The girls are separated. Do you have one of the girls with you? Do you have both girls with? The kids are with her for a little while, but then they all get separated. And she's like being shoved. She's showing me they're shoving, shoving, shoving. And she's trying to tell the children how to be calm. We have to be calm. We have to survive this. Um, we're going to be okay. She's talking. Now, there, even though this one Indian has not said anything to her yet, he speaks English. She does not know he speaks English. There is somebody just kind of shoving them kind of and carrying, just pushing, pushing, pushing. Um, and for days, I mean, for days, that first day, that first push, and they were starting to push, she was so thirsty. I think the terror, there's something when you go into shock. I feel like she just is so thirsty. Um, and she's trying to battle extreme thirst, which is why Dad's showing me. That's why I got the water in my face. Um, extreme thirst is it's weird how things are the opposite sometimes. Extreme thirst. She's trying to remember what James had told her. One of her arguments I felt that came in so strong with her was before they left. It's the wilderness out there, where they were, it was kind of established. Even though it was so crude, it was still people who were around and there were roads and, out there, there's no roads, I'm going to, walk 10 feet out of my cabin and I'm going to get lost. And the children are going to get lost. And, she's really worried about that whole thing. But, don't worry about it. We'll get the land cleared, you know, and through that time, um, when he's sick and they're having these conversations, he's telling her, if you get lost, this is what you need to do. And I feel like moss on the tree, pay attention to where the moss is on the tree. Pay attention to where the sun is in the sky, juxtaposed to where the moss is on the tree, so you can find your way back. Look for unusual landmarks. You're going to find landmarks that you're going to remember. Remember them. Remember, and he talked about the stars and how to align yourself with that. So if you're traveling at night, he talks about that. But it is about aligning yourself. Pay attention to in the sky where the sun is and the moss on the trees to get your bearings. Pay attention to the waterways and try to find unique structures, you know, rock formations and that will help you with your bearings. So if you kind of see a mountain far away, and you're coming down out of, or you need to go to the mountain because you came from, down a slope and you need to get back that way. So, I mean, these are the conversations that they're having, pre her going out. So she's trying to, keep the kids alive, just do what they're told. The big thing that she is telling me and showing me more and more is how painful the walk was, because we know that she couldn't take her shoes off to even get the rocks out of her shoes. The pain is so great in her feet that it radiates up her calves into her knees. So there are moments where she feels like she cannot take another step. There's somebody else that's killed, and it was a point made. Somebody else was killed along that journey. And it's like, it doesn't matter how painful this is. I can experience pain and stay alive for my children, or I'm going to die right this minute if I stop. That has got to be painfully made clear in the vividness of the telling of this story, because she's making a point that is so strong that's affecting my body. I can feel the pain radiate up into my hips, my lower back. It is excruciating. Now, the interesting thing that I kept getting, and I'm getting it right now, that first night when they finally stopped, she got water and she felt like she couldn't get enough water. She drank and she drank and she drank and she made sure that the kids that were with her were hydrated. But when she was handed water, even though she kept saying, I need water, and the guy just basically looked at her like he couldn't understand her. And he would just shove her, he wouldn't talk. But he knew and he spoke English. She doesn't know that till he hands water. He goes, "Here's your water." And she, you couldn't say anything to me, that sort of thing. And she just drinks so much water. And he gives her water so the children can stay hydrated, so she can stay hydrated on the journey for the next day. But he made a point. If you don't ever want to go through that misery again, you'll do what we say when we say. And she did. I mean, that was a form of control. The fact that she made it and not drop and just say, uncle, I got to tell you, just from what she showed me, and I've asked Dad to soften it up, it has gone back a little bit. I would have died there. I do not have the level of will this woman had. And I am a willful child in this family, you know? And her world was very black and white. It's just astounding to me. I think by the time she ends up in the captivity where she's at, she was treated well, but separated from her children, which was agony, agony being separated from her children. She said, I cried every night, cried. My heart just cried every night for my children, and just I can't even feel the loss of my husband. She can't even mourn her husband because all she can do is worry and fret about her babies. Will she ever see her babies again? And at some point, George is taken from her, which was just the worst of the worst. Now, she did present to me that she thought Joseph was dead. She thought Joseph was dead. Interesting. Yeah, the amount of agony, shock, horror, terror. I don't think words are ever going to be enough to express the level of intensity that this event was, or what she had to do to stay alive, to try to keep what she could of her children alive, and then to know that if she escaped from the Indians, that they would have killed her. I mean, she knew if she left, it was a death sentence. And that means even when she's on horseback and riding away, um, she knew if they caught her, they would kill her because she would lead people back. And they knew that. I mean, that wasn't just one person, one Indian saying that. That was pervasive. Once you had your captive, you don't let them leave. If they do leave, you have to kill them because they will lead a party back. And it was about protecting the tribe, and that was their way. I mean, they fought other tribes the way they fought the white people. So that was just what you did to keep the tribe alive. So from their perspective, as brutal as it was, they too were trying to survive in the same land and couldn't live with each other. And, who could blame them? You have to understand that, you know, the white people were making deals and trades and, either the communication wasn't there, or they were really reneging on what they said, but, communication wasn't all that great. The breakdown of communication was great at that time. So yeah, it was harsh. But that's what she gave me. And something else is coming in. I'm sorry. Um, when she gets on that horse and she leaves, I mean, it was awful. It was awful because again, I feel like when she's getting on that horse and making her escape, I feel like she's worried she will never see her children again because the act of leaving any children that she could potentially, if she got away, they would get her children further away from her if they didn't catch her. They're going to know she's gone. And when that happens, then, some pretty bad things can happen to her kids too. So she's hoping that she can get away. And at this point, she's not sure who is where, if they're still alive. She knows if they're ever going to have a chance of reuniting the family, she had to get out. And it was way too long. She said it took me way too long to escape, way too long. So there was some time there. I don't know how long, but there was a gap there. But she did get out. But as she's leaving with this horse, I feel like, um, I mean, it's terrifying out there. She's terrified in the woods. She doesn't really know where she's going. She thinks she knows where she's going. She knows she's been told where to go. She's told what to look for to get there. But it's still terrifying because she feels like they're going to come at her and she's not going to see them coming. Ambush, ambush. She's worried about being ambushed. So she does get away. She gets away and she does get to South Carolina. I think it is around 96 that she goes to. The moment she is reunited with one of her children, it must be Joseph. I feel like I'm buckling in the knees and just a sobbing, just an absolute breakdown and sobbing, and this holding on to. And whenever that, whenever they were united, that's sort of what she's getting. She's holding on to him. They're crying, and it's then it's when she gets to her family and she has at least one or two of her children, and that initial contact is so important. That initial contact where she feels like she can't breathe, her knees buckle, she drops to the ground, she's sobbing. That's the moment of this horror finally releasing out of her. The horror of being, not able to scream, that trapped energy. That's the first time it's ever come out of her, is in that moment. That moment right there needs to be probably captured for sure. For sure. I think I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Yeah, I think I'm going to end it there. She's giving me a lot more information right now, but it's almost hard for me to stay tuned into. She's trying pretty hard, but it's not making a lot of sense to me right now. So when I'm tuned in really good, it comes in really, really clear. And I can feel her still trying to deliver information. But that's where it begins to, like, on my end, just to kind of give you an idea what it's like for me. Because part of the reason I'm telling you this is for you to become cognizant of this is what it feels like when they're talking to you. And pay attention to how you feel. This information just comes in out of nowhere, and it comes in imagery. It comes through how the body feels. Like I can feel James doing this and getting hit hard, and his hand doing that, and the sword drops out. It gets picked up and whack. I mean, just lightning fast. Lightning fast. He never saw it coming. He was James is like, here, gone. Thank God he didn't suffer. In fact, The thing that Dad is telling me, this is strange. This is interesting. Okay, Dad, go ahead and give it to me. Because this is really interesting. This is really into the woo-woo. Probably not obviously for the book. Are you showing this to me, Dad? James' spirit left his body right before this took place. So his spirit left his body before he was struck by the sword. Yeah, just as it was coming down, his spirit bolted out. He didn't feel it. He went from here to there. Here, there. That'll be interesting. We might want to explore that a little bit more. What was that like? Here, there. Oh my goodness. I hope I've given enough information that she'll actually let me sleep tonight. Oh my goodness sakes alive. So, anyway, yeah, she's going to fill in those details. So I feel like I'm giving you the bullet points, sister, um, of the areas that she would like to highlight in the telling of her story. And I feel like between her and Dad, they're going to be speaking to you too. But I do feel you've got to do, I understand why you had to do Hester first and then James. I understand this now. You know, I think you and I, Susie, were thinking about we were going to tell this story in a linear fashion, you know, from one to the, you know, from one event to the next. And then as each generation comes up, we bring in a new character while the old generation is still there. And then we focus on the old generation and then we write and bring it forward. Now, that's true how we're going to cover, you know, 200 years. You know, that's how it's going to have to go. So, you know, we might start with James and Jane, and, you know, we're going to bring in her Peggy, but Peggy will be doing reflective stuff, and we bring in the next generation characters, and then we follow that next generation. So, and then we just keep birthing and following the next generation. So it's that continuity of the 200 years is so important, and that's what Dad is saying. It's got to be the whole story. The whole story. It can't just begin or end with Nickajack. It has to be told in the totality of it. Um, but I understand why we're doing Hester first because she's pretty intense. She's like right now, right now, right now, and really ready to talk and probably the easiest because Hester was earthbound and so is James P. And she's gotten very good at communicating or trying to communicate with people. So she's very good at communicating. So this information you're getting is coming from her. Now, because I do this every day, and this has got me wonky with Jane's energy, I don't know how you would do it. You know, it's like you can climb stairs pretty good right now. I have to have a cane to get up the stairs. So at the same token, I'm really strong at this. But I do this every single day, and I'm a little bit more prepared for her. And yet I am still just, way out there with this. But this Hester and Lil James communication will prepare you better to have this conversation with Jane. And she's going to fill in the gaps. We're just giving the guideposts right now, and then she's going to be chirping in the dialogue. She's going to be telling you what she said. She's going to be telling you what James said. Um, and That's funny. And it's the God's truth. It's the God's truth. Yeah, that's funny. Where you might get some embellishment from some other characters, is what she says. You'll get embellishment from other characters, but you're going to get the God's truth from her. And but your energy is going to have to adapt to this a little bit. And the best practice you're going to have is listening to Hester, listening to little James. Dad says he's there. He will help mitigate. But Dad is saying, trust what you hear, Susie. You have this. You have this in ways that will shock you. You have this in ways that will shock you. I hear it over and over and over again. You have this in ways that will shock you. Wow. Pretty cool. All right, let's go ahead and end it now. I am hopefully going to be able to sleep tonight, Jane. I hope you let me sleep. I got to sleep in this body. I know you don't have to, but I need the rest. Anyway, hope you found this one interesting. Be back for more later, Gator.